Practice number 8 is in the books. Saturday in New Orleans as we head to a night practice tomorrow at Tulane's Ullman Stadium. This is the New Orleans Saints training camp show right here on CST. I'm Todd Graffagnini along with John DeShazier. JD, offense and defense are really the focus of the fans here at training camp, but special teams is such an important part of what the New Orleans Saints are trying to do as far as winning a championship. If you don't have competent special teams, you're not going to go very far.
You know, it's fully 1/3 of what you are attempting to do in a football game. And yeah, it's not the sexy thing all the time, especially in training camp, because you don't get a lot of live reps and you don't see a whole lot of what you would normally see in a game. And so fans can get a little probably distracted as the special teams are going along, because again, you don't see live returns, we don't see live punt drills, and yet again, it is extremely important to what a team wants to do if they want to be successful.
Yeah, we're going to focus on that during the show here today. Now, quarterback Justin Hardee, obviously a member of the Saints defense, but he makes his living on special teams, and here's what Hardee had to say.
I try to, whenever they ask for help, I always, help them out always. But you got to be willing to take the coaching. And then you also got to reach out. Take the reps, man. Special teams, it'd be like, it's more so freelance. It's not necessarily you sit here. Coaches really want to see who the guys who want to jump in and go play. So, and I just try to hit at guys that, I told them earlier, special teams is my life right now. It means the world to me. So when them drills come up, I'm serious and, just trying to get everybody else on the same thing.
Well, the Saints are fortunate to have one of the best punters in the NFL and longtime vet and Super Bowl champion Thomas Morstead. And JD, just watching Morstead work on the side the last few days, it's just so fun to see what he can do, because he pretty much can do anything with a football in his leg.
Well, you see a lot of position players, especially in the past. They used to make fun of punters, especially because the punters did the work off on the sides. They weren't really part of the team. And yet Thomas Morstead is probably as good at his job as any position player is in the NFL. Extremely effective. He's been around for a long time, since 2009, and he's been here a long time for a reason.
Here's Thomas Morstead on what he's working on in training.
I'm just trying to be the Drew Brees of punters, I guess. Just there's always something you can be better at and fine tune, and your body's changing as you get older. Recovery, nutrition, all these different pieces. So, you never arrive. Just constantly adjusting and trying to figure out a better way to do it.
Now we'll hear from Thomas Morstead on how punting has changed.
Yeah, like when I was a rookie, I had never done an end-over-end punt. Like I had never worked on it, practiced it. And then when I got here, it was something that was, it was kind of foreign to me. And so, but it's like anything, as the game changes and adjusts, you can't be stuck in your ways, and you have to continue to adjust yourself.
Quarterback Taysom Hill has a big role on the special teams, and I asked him what his role would be this year and how Coach Darren Rizzi is as a special teams coordinator.
Yeah, Coach Rizzi, I think, brings a lot of experience. I think everyone on our team is aware of what he's done in the past, and I think it brings a lot of fire to what he does. It's clear that he loves his job, loves coaching special teams. As far as my involvement, I think we're still exploring everything, but I've still been doing everything I was doing last year. But I think a lot of that is still kind of to be determined.
When we come back on the New Orleans Saints training camp show right here on CST, JD goes one-on-one with special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi. Welcome back to the New Orleans Saints training camp show. I'm Todd Graffagnini right here on CST. John DeShazier has a chat with special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi.
Special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi. And Darren, what have you been able to see now that you guys have been able to put on the pads a couple of times and maybe ramp it up a little bit? Still not full contact, but have you been able to evaluate a little bit better in the special teams?
Yeah, no question. I think one nice thing about special teams, you come out and everybody's getting work every day. You're able to evaluate a little bit better. Obviously, like you said, in the springtime with just helmets, there's only so much you can do. So now these last week or so with the pads on, the drills kind of change, the tempo kinds of change, the evaluations kind of change, and we're kind of just gearing up for that first preseason game. So it's been real good.
The issue with the Saints the last couple of seasons has not been coverage units. They've been very, very good at that. It's been the return game. Are you seeing some progression there again? As I know it's difficult to evaluate until you actually get into the game, but have you seen some things that you like there?
the first thing I see is a passion from the players to get it right. And, it starts with the veteran guys. We're very fortunate. We're very fortunate. We have a number of veteran guys that have been around the block, been here, know what it takes to how to practice, how to prepare. We call it 1/11th. And they've really embraced that. And really that's what the return game's all about. Everybody doing their part. It's not just the returner. Sometimes the returner gets all the heat or all the accolades if he does well. But really it's everybody. And I think that's what we're trying to make. It's a holistic approach. The blocking, the holdups, the scheme, all that is just as important as the guy with the ball in his hand. I think we're really progressing. And we're working a number of different guys back there with the ball in their hand, and we'll kind of see who does what in the return game in the preseason games.
And I think you hit on a very good point there. Guys like Justin Hardee and Taysom Hill and Craig Robertson are guys that we kind of overlook from time to time and how critical they are. What are you seeing out of those veteran guys? You mentioned them a couple of times, but those guys really kind of make this unit go.
No question. I think the thing I'm seeing the most is leadership. A guy like Taysom, a guy like Craig Robertson, a guy like Hardee, just to name a couple. Banjo. Again, these guys have a number of snaps in the league already, and they're really setting a great example, I think, for our younger players. We have a number of rookies and a number of guys that haven't been with the organization before, and for a new guy perspective, as I have coming in, it's impressive to watch. It's impressive to watch their work ethic day in and day out, not only on the field, but in the meeting rooms, their attentiveness to detail, and those guys that we mentioned, along with some other guys that have been around here, are really setting the table for us and really setting a high standard. And that's been impressive for me. And that's really been, the easy part for me is to come in. Sometimes you have to kind of create leaders. And I think I haven't had to do that. We have the leadership kind of built in.
What's the teaching process like for some of the younger guys? Because some of these guys from college haven't played special teams in quite some time. And now all of a sudden you kind of got to take them back to block A and build them back up.
No doubt. We call it beginner's mentality. No matter how much football you can always learn something. I'm in my 27th year of coaching special teams, and I'm still learning as we go, and I always use that as an example. And a lot of these guys, especially in the punt return game, because in college it's completely different. The rules are different, the formations are different, the schemes are different, and so really just starting out, like you said, with that beginner's mentality and working up. And we've really progressed from OTA number 1 till now. I've seen a lot of strides, not only in the mental but the physical. And I'm really excited to kind of get this next week, get our work in and get to Friday and see what these guys can do on the field.
A couple of other knowns that we obviously have come to rely upon if you watch the Saints, kicker Will Lutz, punter Thomas Morstead. How good and comfortable do you feel at those positions?
A guy like Timo's been around a long time, and we joke around about it all the time. And I feel like he's been in the league just as long as I have. He was the very first player that I evaluated when I got into the NFL, and so we kind of entered the same year. And him and I kind of joke around about it all the time. But he's another one of those guys you can throw right into leadership. He's not only a guy that can talk about his craft, but he's been around long enough. He knows what the gunners are supposed to be doing. He kind of knows from a general standpoint how it all's supposed to look. And he's a great guy to have. We're always bouncing ideas off each other. He's like having another assistant coach. He's been in the league a long time. He's been real good. And Will, we all know what Will did last year. In the last couple of years, he's been real solid. And to have that battery of guys there, and those couple of guys you're always going to be there. You know what you're going to get from those guys day in and day out from a work ethic standpoint. And the nice thing about those guys, they're always trying to get better. They're not sitting back and kind of resting on resting on what they did last year. They're kind of moving forward every day, and their drive and their will to get better, no matter how long they've been in the league, is impressive to watch.
All right, thank you, Darren. That's Darren Rizzi, and we'll be back after this break.
Final segment of the show, New Orleans Saints training camp show right here on CST. I'm Todd Graffagnini. This is John DeShazier. Yesterday, JD, we heard Drew Brees talk about starting the process over after such a heartbreaking loss in the NFC Championship game, basically going back to square one. Well, punter Thomas Morstead, of course, is a world champion, talked about beginning that process as well.
Been on this team for a long time now, and expectations are different every year. I've seen us exceed expectations and fall short of expectations. I've seen us go through ups and downs as a team, and when you talk about it in the locker room, like chemistry, whatever that it factor is, I think it's hard to measure what that is, but when you have it, you know that you have it, and when you don't, you know that you don't. And so I think the challenge with this team and every team, especially when there's expectations, is that you don't pick up where you left off last year, and it's just acknowledging that this year will be even harder than last year, especially with the expectations. And I think if everybody can acknowledge that and like just face it and know that it's going to be harder, then we could have a chance.
Well, JD, as far as practice today goes, it was good to see Latavius Murray and Marcus Williams back out there. We talked about them being in pads yesterday but didn't participate. They were out there fully today.
Yeah, Graff, it's good to see him get back to work. I mean, it's training camp, and especially, again, for Latavius Murray, his first year in this offense. So he really needs to get back on the grind a little bit and get knowledgeable in his playbook and what he can offer this offense.
Well, there were also some veterans not at practice today, but as JD calls it, it was vet day today.
Yeah, probably. Linebackers A.J. Klein, Demario Davis, right guard Larry Warford, and also tight end Jared Cook. We didn't see any of those guys at practice today. Probably a vet day / maintenance day for those guys. You want to keep them off their feet and keep them as fresh as possible. So I would assume that there are no big maladies to contend with for them.
All right, JD, everybody looking forward to tomorrow night at Tulane-Gilman Stadium, 7 to 9 will be the practice again. All remaining practices out here are sold out, so if you don't have tickets, it's your last chance to see the New Orleans Saints. Again, under the lights at Gilman from 7 to 9 tomorrow. Fan Fest, though, starts at 5 p.m. on Brown Field. We hope to see you out there.